So you walk up to a gate, a camera looks at you for about a second, a light goes green, and you walk through. That's the whole experience from your side. Underneath, it is a specific technical process, and almost nobody who walks through that gate could tell you what happens to their face the moment it's taken, or 5 minutes later, or 5 months later. That gap between I got scanned and I understand what got scanned is the subject of this video. I spend a lot of my time reading the privacy notices and technical documentation behind systems like this, not the marketing page, the filing that describes what data gets created, where it gets sent, and how long it sits before it's deleted. Airport facial recognition is one of those topics where everyone has a strong opinion and almost nobody has read the document that would settle it for the airport they're flying through. So let's go through it properly, stage by stage. First thing to get straight is that the system isn't filing away a photo of you the way your phone's camera roll does. What happens is closer to measurement than filing. The camera captures an image, and that image runs through a model that extracts measurements from your face, the distance between your eyes, the proportions of your jawline, the contours around your nose and mouth, dozens of reference points taken at once. Those measurements become a set of numbers, sometimes called a face print or a template, and it's that set of numbers, not the photo, that does almost all the work downstream. Here's the single fact that decides more about your exposure than anything else here. Is the system checking your face against one specific image or against the big stored pool of faces? Those are two different jobs on different infrastructure, leaving different footprints. The industry calls the first one verification or one-to-one matching. It calls the second one identification or one-to-many matching. Most of what you walk through at a boarding gate or border checkpoint is the first kind. The second is rarer and is the one that matters more for your privacy. Verification is simple once you strip the jargon out. The system asks one question: does the face in front of the camera match this reference image? That reference is usually the photo inside the chip in your passport, under the contactless symbol on the cover, or a photo you uploaded during check-in, or one captured at backdrop. The gate reads the chip, pulls the photo, compares it against your live face, and returns a pass or a fail. It never has to search anything. It isn't looking through a database of 1 million people. It's comparing you to one document you're already holding. Instead of comparing you to a document you're carrying, the system compares your live face against a large stored set of face prints, trying to work out who you are without you presenting anything, or checking whether you match someone already flagged on a separate list. This is closer to watch list screening, or systems built to catch someone traveling under a name that isn't theirs. It requires a persistent, searchable database of face prints, ready to be queried at any moment, a bigger and more sensitive footprint than a one-to-one check will ever need. So when a headline says, "Your face was scanned at the airport," that sentence alone tells you almost nothing. A one-to-one gate check that confirms your face matches your passport photo can, in principle, discard the live capture the instant the match completes, because it never needed to keep it. A one-to-many system, by contrast, needs an ongoing store of face prints just to function. There's nothing else for it to compare against. The word scan is doing a lot of work to hide that difference. Back to the face print for a second, because it gets misunderstood constantly. Companies running these systems love saying, "We don't keep your photo, we only keep a mathematical representation." And that line is technically true and designed to sound reassuring, but sit with what that representation is. It's a stable, unique identifier permanently tied to your physical body. A password can be changed the moment it leaks. Your face measurements cannot be changed ever. Whether what's sitting in a database is a JPEG of your face or a string of numbers describing it, the job is the same. A durable link between this specific person and this specific identity. Let's talk about where that reference photo comes from, because it changes what a successful match is proving. For most travel, the system isn't comparing you against some unknown pool of strangers. It's comparing you against a photo the government or airline already has on file, embedded in your passport chip, attached to your visa, or captured the moment you checked in. E-gates read that chip photo directly off the document in front of them, which is why the whole process finishes in about a second. No remote server queried in real time, the answer already sitting in your hand. Which means a green light at that gate doesn't prove the system picked you out of the entire population, the way people sometimes assume. It proves your live face is consistent with the photo printed on the document you're holding. That's the same basic judgment a human border officer makes by eye, flipping open your passport and glancing up at you twice, just automated and faster. It's a much narrower claim than facial recognition identified me out of everyone on Earth, and it's worth keeping that distinction straight next time you walk through one. Now, the face itself is rarely the only thing recorded in that moment, and this is the part that gets under-discussed the most. A scan event at a gate typically gets tied to a timestamp, the specific gate or kiosk used, the flight or document number involved, and the result, pass, fail, or referred to an officer for review. Put those pieces together and what you have isn't a face, it's a movement record. It says a specific identity was at a specific place and time, and whether the automated check succeeded, and that record can easily outlive the faceprint that triggered it. Picture what that looks like as a plain database row, because it's easy to gloss over while it stays abstract. A gate number, a timestamp down to the minute, the flight or document number tied to that traveler, and a result field reading pass, fail, or referred, 4 or 5 fields, nothing exotic, and no biometric data required in that row once the check is done. But stack enough of those rows up over a year of ordinary travel, and you've built a fairly complete record of where one identity has physically been, entirely separate from whatever happened to the faceprint itself. Here's why that matters more than people expect. The interesting privacy question at an airport was never really, is my face stored somewhere? It's, is my presence at this exact time and location being recorded and tied to my identity? The honest answer is almost always yes, with or without a camera involved. Scanning your boarding pass at that same gate does the identical logging job, no biometrics required. Facial recognition changes how the check gets performed. It doesn't invent the underlying fact that your movement gets logged. Retention is where people want one clean answer, and there isn't one. How long do they keep it? Sounds like a single question. But it is several things stacked together, each with its own rules, that shift by country, by agency, and by whether it's a government checkpoint or an airline's internal system. The live captured image has its own retention clock. The extracted faceprint has a separate one. The log entry recording the match result has yet another timeline. Treating all of that as one policy is where most casual claims about this topic quietly fall apart. And those timelines aren't even consistent within one system, let alone across different ones. Rules for domestic travelers can differ from rules for foreign nationals at the same checkpoint. A routine automatic pass, the kind where the light turns green and you keep walking, is usually treated differently from a failed match escalated to a human officer for review. That failed case is more likely to have its image kept longer because once it's escalated, it stops being routine, it becomes part of an incident record, and incident records tend to get held onto. If you actually want the real retention period for a specific program you're about to fly through, the reliable move is to find that program's own published privacy notice or privacy impact assessment, not a summary video, not a forum post, not this script. Those documents genuinely exist, agencies and airlines publish them, and they're specific to the exact program in a way a general claim about airport facial recognition can never honestly be. If retention matters to your situation, that document is the real source worth 10 minutes of reading. There's a separate concern that comes up constantly. The watch list question: does a captured face get checked against or added to a list used to flag people of interest, independent of whatever document they're carrying? That's a different data flow altogether from the routine gate check we've been walking through. It requires the system to run identification, not verification, against a reference set that isn't your own passport photo. It's somebody else's list, built and maintained for a completely different purpose than checking your travel documents. Whether that actually happens, at which checkpoints, under which circumstances, depends entirely on the agency and jurisdiction involved. And I'm not going to pretend I can generalize that across every airport on the planet, because that would be dishonest. Any claim that a given traveler's face is or isn't being checked against the watch list at a specific location needs a named, current, sourced answer, not a blanket statement lifted from a general explainer. If that's the actual concern driving your question, it deserves a far more specific answer than yes or no. Some airports and airlines do offer a manual alternative, a human officer checking your document by eye instead of a camera running the comparison. Where that option exists, it does remove the live capture and the automated match log for that step. The biometric part doesn't happen to you in that lane. But don't mistake that for opting out of being tracked in general. Your name, passport number, itinerary, and the fact that you passed through that checkpoint at that time are all still recorded through the same document-based process that existed for decades before facial recognition ever showed up. So opting out changes which system verifies your identity. That's really all it does. It doesn't change whether your movement through that airport gets logged, because it was always going to be logged, camera or not. Whether an opt-out is even available and what the procedure looks like varies by airport and country. And that's a question for that airport's current published policy, not something a general video can responsibly answer for your specific trip. So here's the realistic way to hold all this in your head. Airport facial recognition isn't one giant surveillance system quietly watching everyone at once, and it isn't a harmless convenience either. It's a pipeline made of distinct stages: live capture, template extraction, matching, logging, and each stage carries its own footprint and its own retention behavior that doesn't move in lockstep with the others. The useful question was never really, does the airport have my face? It's, which piece of that pipeline gets kept, for how long, and joined up with what other record about me. If this kind of stage-by-stage breakdown is useful to you, that's basically the whole channel: tool tests and step-by-step guides that tell you exactly what a given thing protects you from, and just as importantly, what it doesn't. No fear selling, no pretending one setting or one gadget makes you invisible. The full guides and tool tests are at theprivacywire.com. I genuinely appreciate it if you subscribe for more of these, and I'll see you in the next one.